All right, everybody, welcome back to Rhyme Makers. I am Essie Krana, and today I will be breaking down the highly requested figures of speech in rap. We're going to go over what they are, how you can identify them. We're going to run through a few examples, and I'm going to give you a cool exercise you can start using right now to improve your skills with them. So let's get started. Okay, so what are figures of speech? Let me actually start with a dictionary definition here, which says that a figure of speech is a word or phrase used in a non-literal sense for rhetorical or vivid effect. What that basically means is that figures of speech are used to make your language or your use of language more creative, more colorful, more expressive. It adds life and character to your words, right? So that your language isn't dull and boring and just plain, straight to the point, very obvious, very direct. You use figures of speech to add that depth, to add that layer of creativity and color, right? So that's what they are and kind of why we use them. There are lots of them out there, but today I'm going to be touching on 7 basic ones. That would be similes, metaphors, personifications, hyperbole, alliteration, irony, and oxymoron. Okay, so let me just kind of quickly run through some examples of each, and then I'll actually go through some examples from actual song lyrics, right? So a simile and metaphor are usually put together because they're very close, but they have just a slight distinction, which is similes are comparing to objects using like or as, and metaphors are comparing to objects saying that one is the other. So for simile, you would say planes fly like birds. See, planes fly like birds. That's a simile. Planes fly as majestically as birds. That's a simile, right? But if I said planes are birds, that would be a metaphor, right? So personifications, the example for that, actually, the definition of that, first of all, is giving a human quality to an inanimate object. So, for instance, if you said, the plane looked happy flying through the sky. Planes are inanimate. They're not alive. They don't look happy. Okay, but saying that that plane looked happy flying through the sky, it kind of paints a picture of how the plane was flying through the sky, or how the person describing the plane felt when they saw the plane flying through the sky. You understand? Instead of just saying the plane was flying through the sky. You know, one is a bit more expressive, a bit more colorful, more vivid than the other. Okay? Hyperbole. A hyperbole is basically an exaggeration, a gross exaggeration. My example here is the plane was flying faster than the speed of lightning. Planes do not fly faster than the speed of lightning, or light, I should say. But that's an exaggeration. It's just an expression to let you know how fast that plane seemed to have been flying. So that's a hyperbole, just an exaggeration. Alliteration is the repetition of a particular sound throughout a phrase or sentence. For instance, you can say, the purple power plane put people past the point of perplexity. The purple power plane put people past the point of perplexity. That would be alliteration, because you have the repetition of the sound of P throughout that entire sentence. Next, irony, and this time I'll read it from a dictionary definition. Most people know what an irony is, but to kind of explain it is just kind of, I find the dictionary does a really good job. So, a state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects and is often amusing as a result, right? So it's kind of like a bit of paradox. It's like, whoa, that you wouldn't expect that. It's just kind of funny in a sense, kind of, you know, ironic. So my example here would be, the pilot was secretly scared of heights. Like, that's kind of ironic, you know. A pilot who spends most of their time at work, tens of thousands of feet in the air, has a secret fear of heights. That is irony, right? And the last one, oxymoron. Basically, It's a paradox as well, a kind of contradiction as well. Not exactly the same as irony, but here's an example I have, which is there's nothing more refreshing than the bittersweet experience of air travel. In this case, the oxymoron would be the word bittersweet, because those are two contradicting characteristics, bitter and then sweet, but put them together and you form this beautiful oxymoron that kind of, conveys more feeling and more meaning than just saying a plain phrase or sentence. Okay, now let's go through some actual song examples. I have my song here, Karma Cold, and I'm just going to go through kind of the beginning of it, just the hook and maybe a beginning of the verse, and just point out a few figures of speech as I come across them. So let's start here. So the hook starts like this: holy smokes, I'm not breathing, only chokes, feels like climbing oily ropes, trying to live life on your lonely. So what can we identify from here so far? One simile in feels like climbing oily ropes. It feels like climbing oily ropes, so that's a comparison using like or as simile. Next line, we can find a bit of an alliteration here, which is the repetition of the same sound within throughout a line or phrase. Trying to live life on your lonely, live life lonely, LLL. So feels like climbing oily ropes, trying to live life on your lonely. Even if we look before that feels like climbing oily ropes line, we have I'm not breathing, only chokes, right? That in itself is a metaphor, because I'm saying I'm not breathing, I'm only choking. The line before that, and that's in kind of in reference to the line before that, which is holy smokes, because if you're in smoke, you can't breathe, you're choking. So that's a metaphor right there. Now let's continue to the next bar. Holy moly, can't let the world control me, unlearning what they told me, returning what they sold me. Like, holy moly, can't let the world control me, unlearning what they told me, returning what they sold me. So metaphor right there with returning what they sold me, because what I'm talking about is, if we talk about that, looking at the line before, I'm saying unlearning what they told me. Who's they? I'm talking about society in this example, but unlearning what they told me, I'm comparing that to returning something to a store. Somebody sold you something, you got home, you realized it wasn't good, go back to the store, return what they sold you. So that there's a metaphor for unlearning what they told me. You can try this exercise for yourself. Go take any song you love or any album maybe, and just take some time, set some time aside to listen to that song or that album, and look in the description. There will be a worksheet that you can use with the parts of speech that we covered today and the definitions and a couple examples, and use that to go through your favorite song or your favorite album and see how many parts of speech you can identify in there. If you have your own songs, go back through them, see how many parts of speech you can identify in your own songs, and see if you can write some new parts of speech based on that worksheet. Just look at the definitions, look at the example, and come up with some of your own parts of speech. If you take some time and do this with at least one song every day or every other day, just do it on a consistent basis, breaking down parts of speech, identifying them, writing your own, looking at multiple examples, then in no time you will master parts of speech. And after a while, you really don't need to think about which part of speech is this or which part of speech is that. You just kind of, in your writing game, now you're going to have a wider tool belt, a more expansive tool belt that you can use to create more interesting songs, add more creativity and emotion to your songs. That concludes today's video, going over a basic breakdown of parts of speech, what they are, why we use them, how to identify them, how to get better at coming up with them yourselves. Hope this was helpful for you. If it was, leave a like. If it wasn't, leave a dislike. Leave a comment saying how we can improve, what you want to learn more about. Let me know if I should do a part 2 to this video with a few other parts of speech that I didn't have time to go over in this one. Do you have a lyric that you've written or you've identified a part of speech in? Leave anything down below in the comments. Let's get a discussion going. You already know Rhymemakers has helped thousands of people stay sharp on the pen and on the mic. Head over to rhymemakers.com so you can level up your skills. Rhymemakers, play some music, write a rhyme. I'm Essie Krana, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.